Right, we are on air. It is Thursday, July 5th. Happy 5th of July, everybody. This meeting is a check-in on active development tasks for Backdrop CMS. Before we get into active tasks, I did want to announce that there are 2 new contributed projects for Backdrop. The first is the Akismet module, which is a spam prevention tool for WordPress. It's a subscription service. It's, anyone can use it. So there's been a Drupal module for a while, and now there's a Backdrop module. So if you have been experiencing an increase in spam on your site and you're looking for another solution, this is another good product that's out there. And then another module that was created is one called Entity Metadata Wrapper. So if you really miss the entity metadata wrappers from Drupal 7 and want to use them in Backdrop, there's now a contrib module that can give you your layers of abstraction back. So that's out there as well.
Right. Does it crash the site if something's slightly wrong, like the one in Drupal did with PHP errors? Okay.
It's probably the same.
Because one of the things I hated about the Drupal 7 version is that if you call like value on something that doesn't exist, PHP just takes a big dump and your entire site goes down. Like just white screen. So
yeah, I don't know. I hate entity metadata wrapper, so I probably won't be using that contrib module. But if you need it, anyway, try. If you run in that problem, you could file a pull request.
Yeah, maybe I could look into fixing it.
Yeah, ideally, I mean, the reason why it's probably ported is because there's probably a module that depends on it, which means that there's a shortcoming in our core APIs that it's shimming.
One of the biggest things that I liked about Entity Metadata Wrapper in Drupal 7 was the fact that if you had a reference, you could like have your first entity as an object, and then you could call that arrow, the second entity, arrow, a value on that second entity using your reference. And so we had a site that we worked on for Hook 42, which had these multi-level chained referenced entities all over the place. And so we'd often have like this node type arrow, that node type arrow, the other node type arrow, a user arrow, another node type arrow, the actual field name we wanted. And we could just put that in one line. So that's why I like that module.
Yeah, but if it's not integrated with our reference module, then how's that going to work? Like I have no idea how Entity Metadata Wrapper would do that without the whole entity, additional entity API stuff.
Yeah, I don't actually know how it works. I'm just saying that that's a feature I really like.
Okay.
So yeah, it sounds like there's definitely a developer experience improvement necessary for Backdrop Core, so that we can give that same feature to developers to be able to get access to their related whatevers. And I don't know what that's going to look like in Backdrop, but in Drupal 7 it was via entity metadata wrappers. Definitely room for improvement there. All right, let's go on to Backdrop project progress. Nate.
Sure. Okay. Okay. So what we've got going on here. Let's see. We usually talk about. Oh, hang on. I'm on the wrong agenda. We usually talk about the latest bug fix release first, and that is the next version is 1.10.2. We did have a couple of more issues that were merged this past week, which is great. So we're seeing kind of some continuous improvements, as always. A couple of minor UX issues, description text that were added. There was also a bug in views that was fixed relating to, I think, latest comments field. But we don't have any real pressing issues for 1.10.2 to be released, with the exception of issue 2904, which has to do with database credentials being URL encoded. Status on that still needs work. Still just kind of a rough idea of how to implement that. and then the requirement that we have some discoverability if we're using a workaround to connect to the database, that we expose that to the user as a big problem in their status report. There's a bunch of other issues that are flagged for 1.10.2. You can check the issue tracker. Usually they're flagged as being in the next bug fix release because they're close to completion. And so if you're looking for issues to review that are likely to be completed on a very short timeline, checking out the issue tracker for 1.10.2 milestone is a great way to find issues that need reviewing. Let's talk about 1.11. 1.11 is the next minor release of Backdrop that will be coming out September 15th, 2018. And we have a raft of improvements that are being attempted at the moment. So let's go through them all. First up is contact module improvements, which is being spearheaded by Opie. There's a big meta issue at 30.23 that lists a number of improvements to contact module. At this point, we've merged in 3 or so of those contact module improvements. But just take a look at issue 30.23 to take a look at those other issues that are still in progress. Things like adding a contact module block, or enabling contact module in the default profile, or what was the other one? Oh, adding a menu item for contact module when when the module is turned on, things of that nature. So please take a look at the meta and post feedback on each one of those issues that has not yet been completed. Next up is color module improvements. There's another meta for this one at 1905. And Joseph has been doing a lot of work on color module improvements, most notably issue 3186, which is improvements to the way that the color pickers work when you are configuring a theme. This was separated out into a dedicated issue just this past week, which was very helpful. It has a pull request that currently needs review. Functionally, it looks like it's fairly complete, but there hasn't been a lot of feedback posted other than, wow, the functionality is completely amazing, which is totally true. But we need to make sure from a technical side that the implementation is solid, and that we put it through its paces of testing, and if possible, and adding automated tests to that functionality as well. Joseph, anything you want to add regarding color module improvements?
I haven't really made much progress in the last week. I'm kind of recovering from having teeth pulled at the moment.
Okay. And really, I don't think it's on you at the moment. It's on reviewing your work that you've put in so far. So
I have made a little progress on working on the preview, because right now it's a tiny little box. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I think Wes had a suggestion there at one point about somehow in the iframe you can somehow scale the entire viewport in the iframe. Is that still possible, Wes, or is that just like a crazy idea that didn't actually work?
No, I've done it before. It works. It is a little crazy, but yeah.
I could actually show what I have at the moment.
Is it? Are there changes from the last meeting?
Yeah, but it doesn't really work very well, so I haven't pushed them up.
Sure. Yeah. Let's do it.
So I have this thing, and it resizes the, and it switches between the desktop and the mobile when the iframe is actually the correct width for it. So yeah, my plan was to make it the full size of the screen, so you could have a really big or a really small preview.
Interesting. I wonder, I might not be the only person to speak on this particular behavior, but I wonder if it might be preferable to have the preview be a fixed size so that the UI is predictable, but then have like a pop-out button that opens it in a new window so that you can see the entire site in the new theme, like as a full window instead of as part of the page.
Uh,
I have no idea if that's even possible.
that would actually be really easy. Basically, the way I'm doing is I'm just modifying the URL to make that whole thing work. So I could you just add that to the URL, and then it uses your preview theme settings. So yeah, that would actually just be like just adding a link for it.
What happens if you click on a link? Does it still maintain that preview thing?
Yeah, it does. So if I go here, it maintains the preview because it's part of the URL. And it's weird. I'm rewriting all the URLs. So like if you're in the preview, you stay in the preview. And if you're not in the preview, you do not go into the preview.
Well, anyway, this is exactly why we need a code review. But that looks, I mean, it looks like it works. So
yeah. The only problem,
I like it.
And if I go back here and change like this to red at the top, then I go back here and refresh, it changes it to red, even though if you went in as a different user, you wouldn't see that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also change the preview to like that, and now the whole site's using 7 as the default theme. Like for you.
Just as a particular caution, does that have any kind of permissions checking on it?
I didn't do it yet, but I can.
Yeah, it should probably be locked down to administer themes like that preview business so that you don't get front-end people like, just getting entirely broken versions of the site by just following a URL that's got preview tacked onto it.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
Sorry, which issue is this that we're looking at?
This is issue 3186 now. It's under the meta issue for all of the color module improvements, which is 1905, but 3186 is the issue specifically about just improving the UI for color pickers for themes.
It's interesting. I was looking the past couple of weeks, visual regression tests, how they have a slider that you have two versions of the same screenshot of a site, and then you have a slider that makes you see the overlay of the whatever regression was there. And then I started looking at similar patterns for UI where you could sort of like have the the controls that change the colors or do whatever you want with the theme preview, and then you have the preview at the background somehow as a second layer. And the closest that I could find was how WordPress works, the theme customization. So I'll post a link in Gitter as well with the video of the demo that I was taking for WordPress. So Joseph, maybe you want to take a look at that for ideas?
Sure, yeah. Like if anybody has any ideas that might work better than this, that'd be great. Because, yeah.
I was actually amazed about how smoothly the user experience works for WordPress theme customization, and it goes beyond just color, of course. But you could preview things like the site name and site identity, like what we have as what do you call the site motto, the subtitle, whatever you call it. So all these things could be seen live. It was pretty amazing.
Okay, well, Gregory, you're actually up next. I think we can move on from color module to node preview. And you've been taking a look at this the most out of those present. So can you give us a summary as to where issue 3062 stands?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I'm doing that on behalf of Doc Wilmot, who has done an amazing job and various iterations on it, fixing small things that I was pointing out, and others as well. So the first iteration of this included a new ribbon that was introduced at the top of the basis theme, which had controls for switching display modes and saving the preview without having to return back to the edit mode to do that. The main concern there was that this ribbon was at the top of the page, was being rendered at the top of the page. So if one entered into preview mode and then scrolled at the bottom of the page, if the page was long enough, then they would have to scroll back up in order to save. So the suggestion there was that we should put this ribbon at the bottom of the page and perhaps make it sticky. And this was a pattern that was suggested in other issues, so this is what has been done. And some bugs have been identified, as in when you were returning back from preview, certain settings like the publishing status were changed, but all that has been fixed. So this looks pretty amazing in all. The only remaining issues are, so the way that it's rendered now, all the controls are either to the far left or the far right of the bottom ribbon, and maybe we would prefer to contain those to be at the same width as the main content of the page, but this applies only to themes that are actually using a container. And the other major issue is that if the implementation of the ribbon is a totally different thing than what is the submission, the form submission button. So if there are contrib modules that are enhancing or changing the forms in the admin UI, this is not reflected when you're doing the preview. So for example, Save as Draft adds a new button, and this is on the form, on the normal admin interface. But when you click preview, this button, the Save as Draft, gets lost. So you only keep the default save or return back to edit mode. There was a discussion in the previous meeting, the design meeting, that because we are styling this ribbon to resemble the admin UI, just to differentiate of what part is the actual preview of the site and what part are controls for saving any changes. We have styled it, as I said, as to look as the admin theme. But this is now part of the whole page, so this is different CSS. And the concern there is that each theme would need to implement or add this CSS, and it won't look as good. So Wes suggested that perhaps the preview bit of the actual front-end theme should be on its own iframe, sort of like isolated or sandbox it. I think that if we did do that, we might be able to also use the submit buttons as they are from the actual form. So, sorry about that. Yeah, basically that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good ideas. That makes it almost like a. It's like the reverse problem of CKEditor, where CKEditor has to load a style sheet from the front end theme in the admin theme, and this is like the opposite problem, where we need an admin style sheet on the front end, essentially. And yeah, CKEditor has the advantage of using an iframe, so there's a good possibility there. Okay, yeah, great. So it sounds like we're stuck on almost like design and UX issues, which isn't surprising, but that's excellent to see that from the technical side is coming together so strongly. Okay, next up is automatic updates, which is an issue that is taking up a lot of mental space in the Drupal world and in the Backdrop world at the moment. And we have a big meta issue for that at 2018. And we've got a couple of sub issues for tackling these problems. Sorry, Mike, is there something you wanted to add?
No, sorry.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so some of these sub-issues that are in progress include issue 3105, which is allowing core to do updates via the user interface. The status on this one is still needs review. It's a little bit of a tricky one to actually do testing on because it's difficult to actually do the testing of something that doesn't actually have new updates available yet. I think that there's still the outstanding problem regarding authorize.php doesn't work with the combination of doing a core update. And so this probably actually needs to be bumped from needs review back to needs work, because I don't think that that has been addressed quite yet. Yeah, doesn't look like it. Okay, so that issue actually needs work, 3105, but it's kind of the first stepping stone. You know, allowing core to be updated in the user interface is the first step to allowing core to be updated automatically. Next up that we've got is issue 1992, which is an issue to improve the security of downloaded packages. The issue is a meta, or is a feature request that works to add package signing as well as MD5 hash validation. Needs work on that one. We've got some progress moving forward on project module, backdropcms.org, and backdrop core itself, all three of which need to be updated in order to make that happen. And there's some prototype work that is pushing that forward. There hasn't been any updates regarding switching away from using the Sodium digital signing library to a different signing library. So at this point, unless there is more information presented there, we'll probably continue going down using the Sodium library path. And lastly, in the core updates issues is issue 2555, which is an issue regarding the profiles directory, that the profiles directory should be moved under the core directory like all other core files, so that when core is automatically updated or updated via the user interface, the profiles directory also gets updated. Status of that one still needs review. I think that we're all on the same page regarding implementation there. So if anyone gets a chance to do a little bit of further testing on that one, that would be appreciated. But we already have all of the automated tests passing that prove that the profiles themselves are actually working correctly. So that one may be ready to move into RTBC, and I might do that if no other reviews are presented. Let's see. We've got issue 285, which is better statistics tracking. Better statistics tracking, we separated out into a new issue at 3168. For initial work, we can go ahead and start solving this technical problem, which is merely that we want to separate out the sending of anonymous statistics to backdropcms.org from the checking of updates. So your site can continue getting information about updates and downloading updates without sending information to backdropcms.org about what versions of modules you're running. This will allow us to have the maximum security so that sites can eventually automatically be updating all the time, but they don't need to sacrifice the privacy of not sending information about what modules are running on their site to backdropcms.org just to get update information. So that issue is a technical one that we can start on right away, and that's 3168. And then the parent issue of all of this is 285, which is the issue in which we're trying to determine what information we should actually be collecting, like what anonymous information we should actually collect from the sites that send this anonymous information to us. So, go ahead.
Sorry, I have added a new tag for status needs usage metrics, so people should start using that. So if you point one of the issues that requires that, start using it. We don't have the metrics in place now, but once we do, we know which issues need to be added there, or which features.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. I didn't realize that's why you added that new tag, but that makes a lot of sense. So that way, we can do a combination where we can put a big long list of things that we think need to be collected into 285, but a la carte as we encounter issues that also should be sending information to backdropcms.org, we can just add that tag, so we can have a kind of in-depth reference for why we need particular data collection.
It could be closed tickets as well. So if there's anyone that believes that we have defaulted a certain setting into something that should not be the default, just go to that closed ticket and tag it with needs usage metrics so that maybe in the future we can change the defaults if need be. Maybe we've been wrong and most people don't use that.
Yeah. And it also is really useful that you recently posted what Joomla has for statistic, the minor version of Joomla, the PHP version, and the operating system that they're running, which, that would be huge. Like if we knew what version of PHP people were running, that would let us make a lot of decisions. So yeah, really great information and comments there. We're still, we haven't made any traction on technical implementation there. Kind of looking for a champion to take that on. So if anyone is interested in kind of, it's a little bit exciting because you basically got to start a brand new module from scratch. Then yeah, we're looking for that implementation in issue 3168. Let's see, 2 other issues that I'll just throw out there, but not recap because we just talked about them during the design meeting an hour ago, include issue 2887, that is automatically rotating images when they're uploaded based on the EXIF data, and issue 37, which is an improvement to the modules listing page to allow for tagging of modules in addition or possibly instead of categories. So both of those were discussed during the design meeting, so we won't recap them again here, or you can just take a look at those individual issues on GitHub.
Number 37, I think that Doc Wilmot was actually, because he's not present, he's looking at the videos after the fact. So he's actually looking for direction and input. If we could at least, I don't know, if we can come up with a consensus, it doesn't have to be this meeting, but in a meeting, then he will know what to work on.
Or add a comment. I know, Nate, you were the one that had the biggest objection to having all of the fields on that form. So maybe you should add a comment there today with your preferred direction for moving that forward.
Okay. Yeah, if that is what we're looking for, is just my input, I would be happy to do that. So I don't like being the opposition party, but okay. Is there anything else that we'd like to bring up regarding features that we're targeting for 1.11?
Not so much features. I would like to bring up an old ticket that sort of came up, and that one is 2789. It's a meta issue, and it says, stay on top of contrib module updates. So yeah, recently there was some discussions about features that exist in the file entity module that people would expect to be in core because that's what we are listing in one of our slides as well. But there's things like, I think that from what I've heard, the same thing happened with ctools. So part of it is on core, but not. So I thought of a way that we could keep up with these updates. It will take some manual work from some people. I volunteer to dedicate some time to that, but we need to be aware of module updates. So my thought was we set up a Drupal installation instance somewhere. We set up some emails that when there's updates, people get notified, and I volunteered myself to be one of those emails. And then we install the respective
contrib modules, yeah, for Drupal.
So at least And each time that we update up to a certain version, we install that version, we update to that version. So we have an idea of what has not been merged into core. If anyone has any better idea on how to stay on top of that,
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, Gregory, you just reminded me of another issue, and that is, I don't have the number for it, but we mentioned it last week, and that is the file browser, allowing a file to be reused when you insert an image into the rich text editor. And I wish that I had that issue because there's still continuous progress happening in that issue.
Yeah, perhaps. Just hold on a second.
Right. So I don't have the number on hand, but let's add it to the agenda for next week. I know that we keep adding it a la carte, but keep forgetting to put it in the template. So I apologize to those that are working on that issue. You're still doing a great job. And there is an issue in which that work is happening, and it's coming along really strongly, but I don't have the number here for reference. That's it for the 1.11 update. Do you guys have any other things to discuss or general Q&A that we can work through right now?
No, just the ticket number is 3134 for add image browser in the WYSIWYG insert image dialog. That's the one.
3134. Thank you. Anything else, folks? Okay. Well, we've got a lot of really exciting things happening. I know we're just at mid-release cycle at the moment, and it feels like we've all got tons of time because it's the summer. That's what it feels like for me. Maybe not those of you that are in Australia, but
I'm going back to Europe in August 10th, so it's going to be summer for me too.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining the meetings. Thank you all for watching. Just keep on backdropping, and we'll see you guys on the internet. Bye.
Bye, everyone.